So in today's reaction, I've been told that there's a lake in Georgia that is the most scariest haunted lake in all of America. The tagline of this video is "The Scary Story of Lake Lanier, America's Most Haunted Lake from the Paranormal Files." If you like that channel, then go and give them some love and go and subscribe to them. Right, let's get into the video. Right, okay, let's see what this scary story of Lake Lanier entails. I'm really intrigued to see why a lake is haunted. How is a lake haunted? I mean, I've seen Ghost Shark on the Sci-Fi Channel. Oh, what was it, Water Shark or something like that? He used to only live in water. Let's go.
Over 600 deaths, reports of ghosts pulling people under the water.
Really?
Lake Lanier seems to be one of the most haunted places in America, and no one likes to talk about it. But today, we're digging in deep into this spooky story. Hey everybody, Colin here. Welcome to Scary Story Saturday. I'm glad you guys are enjoying these little videos that I've been producing. If you enjoy the stories and the way that I'm telling them, please hit the subscribe button, turn the notifications on.
Yeah, go
be
do
sure
it.
to like this video and leave me a comment below letting me know a scary story you'd love to hear me tell next week. But I'm going to waste no time. Let's get
Sounds
right
a bit
into
like
this one.
Nuke, doesn't it? Nuke's
There are
top
a lot
5.
of lakes in America. Every state has a lake or two. Hell, Minnesota has got over 1,000 of them.
Wow.
A day on the lake can be relaxing. It can be fun. Maybe you rent a cabin and spend the weekend relaxing near the water, or head to the lake for an afternoon to take your family's jet skis out for a spin. But sometimes lakes take on a dark persona of their own. They come alive with the stories of spirits, death, and history. And that's the case with Lake Lanier in Georgia.
Okay.
Lake Lanier is a man-made lake, or reservoir, in the northern part of Georgia. It encompasses 59 miles of water, and it's absolutely massive. The lake was created back in 1956 to control flooding of the Chattahoochee River and to provide drinking water for residents of Atlanta. But the story of this lake seems to be cursed, with darkness tainting the land even before it would become a lake. Before Lake Lanier was created, the land which now sits at the bottom of the water was lush, vibrant, and full of life. Lots of animals and wildlife called this area home, and so did a number of people. One community that once existed on the land that Lake Lanier now covers was a small village called Oscarville. At one point, Oscarville was home to over 1,098 black residents. It was a town where African American individuals could really thrive, and they had built up their own powerful community in a county known for its racism. But events in the early 20th century would change that. In 1912, a white woman named May Crow was found in the woods near the community, beaten almost to death, and she had been sexually assaulted. She died a short while after the discovery of her body, and the crime was immediately believed by the local white community to have been perpetrated by a black man. So residents essentially rounded up any black men that they could find in the area, and they arrested them. Eventually, 4 people had been arrested. A man named Rob Edwards, his wife Jane Daniel, her brother Oscar Daniel, and their cousin, a 16-year-old boy named Ernest Knox. Rob Edwards, shortly after his arrest, was drugged from the jail by a white mob and lynched on a nearby telephone pole. The crowd then proceeded to fire hundreds of bullets freely into his body while he hung from the pole.
Wow.
Soon after, both Ernest Knox and Oscar Daniel were found guilty of the assault and murder of...
That's one way of getting payback on someone. Stringing him up and shooting the out of him. Right, okay.
The crowd then proceeded to fire hundreds of bullets freely into his body while he hung from the pole. Soon after, both Ernest Knox and Oscar Daniel were found guilty of the assault and murder of May Crow after a one-day trial. They were taken from the jailhouse and also immediately hanged. It's estimated that over 5,000 people gathered from nearby communities to watch the hangings of these 2 men that day. And it's been said that the people there watching this brutal crime happen were celebrating. Weeks before these incidents, another local woman named Ellen Grice had claimed that she had awoken and, according to her, this is a quote, found a Negro man in her bed. This led to a local black preacher being whipped and beaten in the town square. He was also nearly lynched, but narrowly escaped being murdered. After all of this racial violence, a group of white men associated with the KKK who named themselves the Night Riders began to burn down black churches, black-owned businesses, and black-inhabited houses in the area.
So this has been a problem for years and years and years, obviously. But I mean, like, to see it back in them times, you know what I mean? I suppose it hits home more. I mean, things are run a lot different now, and you know, you're innocent until proven guilty. I mean, a one-day trial. Do you know what I mean?
attempt to
Unheard of.
scare people of color out of town. They would appear in the night and set fire to these structures, or even fire bullets into the windows of homes. They would even post notices in certain areas, alerting folks that they had 24 hours to leave before their property would be burned or they would become victimized by violence. And eventually, these scare tactics worked. Within 2 months, virtually every black resident in Oscarville, almost all 1,098 of them, had fled the area. It was essentially an ethnic cleansing, and Oscarville, after its abandonment, became a ghost town. So, fast forward to the 1950s when the Army Corps of Engineers sets their sights on the area and wants to begin the construction of Lake Lanier. Property owners who still remained in the area were offered small sums of money for their property and were eventually forced out of the ancestral homes that had been in their families at this point for generations. Some 700 families and many businesses that had been in these families for decades were forced to relocate in the effort to construct the reservoir. And the money that these families were paid for their land ended up being too small of a sum to survive off of. Lots of these displaced residents were forced to leave the county and area altogether and find somewhere cheaper to live because they simply couldn't afford to live near there anymore. When the Army Corps of Engineers began construction on the lake, they destroyed and removed most of the structures that were once there. Churches were destroyed. Houses, for the most part, were demolished.
Okay.
It took 5 years for the lake to fill with water to the point that the Corps of Engineers wanted it to fill to, and as the mountain foothills in the area filled with this surging water, the unstoppable spread of the lake devoured entire towns, along with their buildings and houses, farmlands, fields, bridges, toll gates, historical landmarks, river ferry businesses, a racetrack called Looper Speedway, country roads, forests, and even other lakes. Thousands upon thousands of animals drowned in this process, and I'm assuming millions of insects that once called the dirt and grounds that would become the bottom of this new lake home. That, in my mind, had to leave a massive stain. Eerily, the Army Corps...
So it's haunted, but it's probably the animals. It's the spirits of all the animals. I mean, it's just like, let's get the people out of the way and then forget the wildlife. We'll just drown everything. It's not very nice, is it?
Corps of Engineers also relocated a total of 20 cemeteries that were in the area so that they could fill the space with water. Bodies were dug up and moved to new burial grounds, but it's said that a number of the headstones were left underwater, whether by mistake or on purpose. And this is one of the many reasons why people claim that the lake is haunted or cursed. Cesar Yabor, a spokesman for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, told CNN in an interview last year that many unmarked graves and burials, whether from local residents or indigenous tribes that had been forced out of the area years before, are probably still there underneath the waters of the lake.
Yeah.
The technological capability to identify and verify unmarked burial sites through subsurface scanning or other means was far less robust 70 years ago, Yabor told CNN. While the Corps made every effort at the time to locate unmarked burials, he added, the limited capabilities of the time make it probable that unanticipated finds of human remains are possible, whether from the antebellum and Civil War periods or of Native American origin from pre-colonial and ancient times. That's absolutely insane to me, that the government is literally admitting that they probably flooded graves while they were constructing Lake Lanier, where they remain unmarked and forgotten to this day. Who knows how many corpses lie nowadays under the dark waters of the reservoir? It's hard to say. Now, onto the legends and hauntings of the lake. Lake Lanier has been a magnet for death ever since it was created, and it continues to be to this day. Since 1965, it's been reported that over 675 people have died in Lake Lanier.
Wow.
Many of their bodies have never been recovered.
That's one or two, isn't it? 675 people. I think the ghosts of these people who have not been left to rest and moved are the culprits. Right, okay.
5 people have died in Lake Lanier. Many of their bodies have never been recovered. Another member of the Army Corps of Engineers, Nicholas Baggett, claimed in an interview that there have been hundreds of drownings and boat accidents on the lake.
Can't say that word on YouTube
He also
anymore.
confirmed in the interview that some of the bodies are still there underwater. He also said that without a body, there's no closure for family members who have one of their own die in this body of water. There have been some victims of drownings that have not been recovered, said Baggett during the interview. In 2017, longtime diver Buck Buchanan told local media that he sometimes feels body parts in the lake during his excursions. You reach out into the dark and you feel an arm or a leg, and it doesn't move, he said.
Horrible.
And I don't know exactly what Buck is referring to there. I don't know if he's just talking about stuff on the bottom of the lake or if he's actually, found and felt a body, but it's still just a very eerie quote. And the amount of deaths in this lake is just bizarre. And when you look at the specifics of some of these drownings, the deaths become even weirder. A lot of people have drowned in calm conditions fairly close to the shore. Many who have drowned have been experienced swimmers who just randomly die. Even recently, a professional basketball player entered the water and never left it. Some individuals who have survived drownings in the lake have claimed that while they were drowning, they felt phantom hands pulling them down into the murky depths.
Wow.
Almost like the ghosts of the lake want to end the lives of those brave enough to swim in it. Other people who have survived drownings have allegedly claimed that they felt all of the air suddenly leave their lungs while they were underwater. Regardless,
Are they not just getting tangled up in stuff? Because I saw a lot of like greenery in the middle of the lakes and stuff. Plus, you've got like whatever's buried on like the towns and stuff. Why do they need a lake? And to do it in that manner as well.
of the lake want to end the lives of those brave enough to swim in it. Other people who have survived drownings have allegedly claimed that they felt all of the air suddenly leave their lungs while they were underwater. Regardless, the amount of drownings in the lake is alarming, and many people in the area caution visitors from swimming in the reservoir.
Yeah.
There have also been stories of boats just randomly capsizing in the lake. Large boats that one moment are floating peacefully in the water and the next are tipped over and sinking to the depths. Some boat captains have even reported running into large objects in the lake with their boats, but when they look down at the water to see what they hit, there's nothing there, just the dark, open water. It's also been said that massive waves and storm systems will appear out of nowhere on the lake. One moment the weather will be calm, and only minutes later, your boat is in danger of capsizing. I don't know how the hell this could be happening, but based on the staggering amount of reports of this phenomenon occurring, it seems that indeed it is. Lake Lanier has also been a place haunted by strange disappearances, murders, and mysteries. In 2015, a man by the name of Kelly Nash awoke early in the morning in his home, complained of having flu-like symptoms to his girlfriend, and then went back to bed. At 7:30, when his girlfriend woke up, he was gone. His car keys, wallet, and ID, however, were still at home. A month later, his decomposed body was found floating in Lake Lanier, with a single gunshot wound to the head. He was still wearing the same pajama pants and dark shirt that he had on when he awoke his girlfriend early on the morning that he disappeared.
Wow.
It may seem like he took his own life, but many are not convinced. The mystery as to how he got to the lake and why this happened has never been solved.
Like young and fit and everything, isn't he? It's not like he's like someone who you'd think would get into trouble in a lake.
Not convinced. The mystery as to how he got to the lake and why this happened has never been solved. Another tragedy that has haunted Lake Lanier is that of two women in the late 1950s. In April of 1958, a young woman who worked at the Riverside Military Academy named Delia Parker Young and her friend Susie Roberts headed off to Three Gables in Dawsonville in Susie's 1954 Ford for a night out. They would never return. A massive search was mounted, but no bodies were found. The car was missing too. The only clue that investigators uncovered were skid marks on a bridge that crossed the lake. A while later, a fisherman made a gruesome discovery. A woman's badly decomposed corpse had floated up from the depths and had surfaced. Strangely, she was missing both hands and two toes, and she was wearing a blue dress. Unable to identify the body, the woman was buried in an unmarked grave in a local cemetery. Fast forward to the 1990s, when a construction crew working in the lake dredged up the rusted hunk of a 1954 Ford with a human body inside. Based on the possessions found in the vehicle, they were able to identify the body as missing woman Susie Roberts, and investigators then were able to identify the corpse that had been missing its hands as Delia Parker Young. It's been said that people have seen the spirit of a woman in a blue dress with no hands walking along that bridge late at night. What an eerie thought.
Is that not just like a legend? Or, people say, because obviously at the time, people would have released a news story that like a body's been found and like the hands were missing, etc. And now next thing, there's a ghost on the lake that's got no hands. You know what I mean? And it's like, I think a lot of it can be hearsay when it's stuff like that.
Blue dress with no hands walking along that bridge late at night. What an eerie thought. And I'll leave you with this particularly chilling tale. According to a few local fishermen, one night while they were fishing, these two men spotted a white raft floating on the lake, being pushed by a shadowy man with a pole. On the raft, there was a lantern swinging slowly in the night breeze. Suddenly, the man turned towards the fishermen and yelled something, but because he was so far away, the fishermen were unable to tell what he was saying. And without hesitation, the man then jumped into the dark waters of the lake and began swimming violently towards them. And as soon as the man jumped from his raft, the lantern on board extinguished, leaving the lake covered in a piercing darkness. However, when the fishermen shined their powerful flashlights into the lake, the raft, the lantern, and the man were gone.
Oh,
would you visit this haunted lake?
Yeah.
I for sure would. Hell, I'd even swim in it if I was given the chance. With such an interesting and dark history, I think that if it's possible for a lake to be haunted, then Lake Lanier definitely is. Thanks again, guys, for...
I could sit there and say, oh, I saw the Grim Reaper on a boat with the light. You know what I mean? That's just people. I think that's just people creating legends. Be saying they want to be relevant. They want to be in the news. They want to be one of these people that go down in history is one of the people who reported seeing something, or being in a documentary, or I don't know, whatever. I'm not having it. I just think people have died in that lake, unfortunately. You know what I mean? I think it's merely coincidence, and I think people are looking far too much into it by the looks of it. But yeah, I don't think that the water's haunted. I don't. Anyway, what did you guys think of this reaction? Let me know in the comments. Do you want to check out anything else from this? No, I'm not going to play this for these. Anyway, if you like the video, then please hit like and subscribe, and I shall see you on the next video.